afternoon, everyone. It's a little unusual for me to do in the afternoon, but I'm very excited. We are going to Fronton in southwest France, and we might get a sunset from southwest France. Stefan was just in the vineyard, and we chatted earlier, and I think we might be getting a sunset. There's Chateau Clamens. Hi, Preston Lane. Hi, Tokar. Let's see, Chateau Clamens. And I haven't seen the place, so just their Instagram, so I'm excited to see where Stefan places himself. There you are. Hi, Stefan.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm very well. It looks like you have good weather.
It's so perfect. Actually, we had some bad weather. The other evenings tonight is actually the first one with sun. It's so great. It's
Fabulous.
really
And
great
your
to see
flight was
that.
on time and everything worked out.
Everything is perfect. I mean, I think I'll show us a little bit more of of the surroundings, but this is really a nice early summer evening here in Fronton.
I would love that. Can we start by you introduce yourself? And I always like to say, tell us how you got where you are, because some people were born into the wine business, some people turned to it later in life, and it's always interesting to hear your story.
Yeah. Thank you already for having invited me.
My pleasure.
So actually, I was kind of, I'm a German, so 46 years of age. So how comes that I'm today a vineyard owner in France? Has something to do with my youth. I was studying economics in France, in Reims, in the Champagne region, which was somehow my first contact with wine and also with the wine business. So actually, if you start with some champagne, it's difficult, to change afterwards or to find other things.
True.
Actually also in France, during my studies there, I got in touch with rugby, that American football style of sport without any protections. But then for 20 years, almost 20 years, I had nothing to do with all of that because I started a career, classical career, once you get out of business school, strategy consulting, all of that. I needed to earn some money probably first. But I was married, and I'm still married to a French woman, which I met during my studies as well. So somehow, all of that studied at the same place. All of that started at the same place. And then, I came to the view, well, you always had that, crush for wine, for how to, well, to taste wine, to drink wine, to talk about it. But do you really kind of, want to go for it? So I bought some books and I started studying at home.
Okay.
Like all the students do have done in the last year, trying to see if really the technicalities of the business would be interesting for me.
Oh, okay.
And only once I was through that, I said, well, now let's go and see where I can add some value. Where is something, rare, something, well, special, something where I can discover and I can help others discover as well. So Fronton is not an obvious choice. I think actually in the US it's not that known.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. It is neither in Germany, but I was thinking of Southwest France because this is where actually all that French cuisine comes from. It's a good style of living. Rugby as well. So Toulouse is playing the championship tonight once more. So in rugby, this is really the territory where you have to go to.
That's true. Yeah.
And then finally, I had that story about Fronton, which is just as old as I am. So actually, the appellation has only been nominated in 75, but
Okay.
it has more than thousands years of people doing what I do today. So there's it's a really huge knowledge. It's a basin of really winemaking know-how. And they have other specialties I'm going to touch upon also a little bit later. But to me, the idea to get there and to meet people, to see with whom I would couple up, was really one of trying to find, that special pearl, that rare topic.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows Bordeaux, everybody knows Champagne, everybody knows Provence.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing to add, there's nothing to develop here.
Yeah.
The vineyard itself is 150 years old, but it only sold locally when I joined it.
Okay.
So it's an interesting topic. So Jean-Michel, the guy I'm working with, he's the fifth generation of the family being on that grounds, and so yeah, I joined him. I took over as as owner of the vineyard, but he's still, there since 10 years with me now. Another 10 until he will be retiring. So I think we'll have a nice and bright future in front of us. But that's kind of how I got
That's
here.
awesome. That's awesome. What would the wine have been called before the appellation was declared? Just like Vin de France?
It was Vin de France, yes. But actually, there is some funny story about that as well. If you have 2 minutes, I will come on that story. So we are here in Toulouse, well, near Toulouse. So actually, roughly 60 kilometers south of where Bordeaux ends.
Okay.
Okay. So what happened when the English were kind of sieging Bordeaux and then taking over Bordeaux? They were shipping all the wines, home to England. So that's why Bordeaux is so renowned in export. So that's kind of somewhere in the 17th century. And because they were not only clever export people, but also clever businessmen, they were saying, well, the hinterland can only sell their wines if the Bordeaux cellars are empty. Which meant that actually they were never empty. So we have the river going from here, from Fronton up to Bordeaux. And in Bordeaux, it goes to the sea. So already.
That's the Tarn? Are you on the Tarn?
No, we are on the Garonne.
Okay.
So it's So we are so basically they went up to Bordeaux. They brought the wine there, and that was 300 years ago. The papers, all of that was on paper. The papers and the ownership changed on the river. Was 2 to 3 days of a trip, changed 17 to 20 times. And the miracle, when the wine arrived in Bordeaux, it was Bordeaux.
Oh, how funny. Wow. Okay, well, that's clever.
So this is why I'd say probably, had we been there, all of us 200 years ago, we'd say, well, that's, Bordeaux wine. Because, before they did the big nomination and classification, etc. in 1855. But actually, before that time, I would say 80% of the production here in the region went up to Bordeaux or was drunk locally.
Right. Well, there's a tremendous upside now that people are really into exploring and wanting to try new things. You have negrette there that people may not have heard of. So people are really wanting to explore right now. So I think you've got a good timing on it. Would you show us around where you're standing? I don't know if you want to flip the camera or what's
I will. Yeah, I will do so. No problem. So, just kind of, I wanted to start. What we see here is the core. It's really the core parcel, the core unit of where I make my rosés. So this is roughly 5 hectares here, all of negrette. So that's kind of the core of where our rosé comes from. Okay. Just, to show that's how it looks when it's in the bottle. So you see it's really bright, really, shiny. Yeah. So that's, so that's kind of the end product, the finished product. So what we have here is we have wind. So the vent de l'automne is helping us because after the rain, there's typically a very strong wind. And that's kind of, the way we are going here. So this year is west to east, east to west. So basically the wind is pushing through the rows and is helping to dry very much. So it's like, it's like a big hair dryer, 25 degrees. It's a warm wind typically in summer. So that helps us, to keep all type of additives low. For sanity of the vineyard. So actually, this is really helping, and that's kind of, so the way this is planted is for quite a long time.
So the vin d'automne I had not heard of, and can you explain what automne is, and why do you, just very simply, you would think you want the wind to blow across the rows, not down the rows. Can you explain that?
Yes, actually, yes. So the key idea here, why you want to have it, down the rows, is because what you see as well for the negrette. So just I'm going a little bit backwards. So what you see is the negrette is quite vigorous, is quite pushing up. So we have to work a lot on the foils. We have to work a lot on the leaves. Okay. To cut them, probably twice as much, 3 times as much as other cepages, other varieties.
Okay.
What we do here is, so if we have the wind, that kind of just kind of flows by, it's really drying up the leaves. Now, if it would come in the other way, it would just kind of be blocked. So that's that's kind of one of the things which is important. And then the other one, I'm just kind of showing what you see all around here, and that's also very typical for all of my units, my parcels, is that you have those bushes around, and then some, somewhere later onward you have the trees. So we are really looking for biodiversity, and that helps us to keep the warmth in. So actually, you want to have the wind to push through when it's moisted. So it's there's, but you want then actually the temperature to be kept. So you don't want to go too far.
Okay. So I had heard in various places that the tree and the vine evolved together, and they used to be codependent.
Yes.
But are you doing that at all just so the mycorrhizal connection under the soil, or it's really just for the warmth and the biodiversity of the different animals and bugs and stuff?
Exactly. I think it's more about the animals. It's about, bees are now, quite at a height. But, when that's an oak tree. So when that was planted, people were not thinking about bees. They were just kind of, thinking about habitation of vineyard with other, vegetation. But you see those trees around.
Yeah.
They have 20 years of age, 30 years of age. So they have really been planted to protect the microclimate before.
Okay, beautiful. And so back to the Vin d'Automne. Is Automne a place?
No, actually, it's the local name for east. So it's just kind of eastern wind,
Okay.
I think it's east. It might be east or west, I'm not from here. I'm not local, but it's either east or it's west. I think it's east.
That's funny. I like that, because there's always like the wind from the north is the one you get in the Roussillon and the Mistral and all that. So could you give kind of an overview of what Fronton is, and like what makes inside the appellation out? Like why do they delineate it? And explain to me what Boulben soil is.
Yes, I will. I will do so. So if we look, so and that's difficult to show on the pictures. I will do it just kind of orally. So if we look at Toulouse, so we are about 40-50 kilometers north of Toulouse.
Okay. Are you very close to Gaillac?
Yes, it's also roughly 50 kilometers. So it's an hour or so drive or so.
Okay.
It's a little bit more east, so gotcha. It's more northeast than Fronton. So we have the next larger village would be Montauban, which is, well, once more not that known. It's about 30,000 inhabitants or something like that. And so the Fronton appellation really goes from, I would say 5 kilometers south to almost to Montauban. So we are, as I said, the most southern part of Bordeaux is some 60-80 kilometers more north. And the interesting thing about that is, and that really I really have to show that one. That is that if we look here, so this is one department in France. Okay. It's 31. It's Haute-Garonne. And then you look at the other side, you see the trees there. So actually, they're behind there in the sun is the bridge, but on the other side of the street, this is another department. It's 82.
Oh, wow.
So it's Tarn-et-Garonne. So this is, the French are really difficult on administration. So this means you have 2 different counties, 2 different mayors, 2 different, all of that. So we also had 2 different ethnologues at a time, because actually we were working on both sides of the fence. And once more, that is going back to the 17th century or to the 16th century even, because there was a sciage. So, at the times, I don't know, you know the 3 Musketeers, and you know Cardinal Richelieu. So Cardinal Richelieu was sieging Montauban. So actually the northern part, the 82 part of, where we are, at the beginning was a different appellation from the southern part. And so,
Wow.
they were kind of fighting each other. And Cardinal Richelieu, he was doing batailles, so battles of wine. So they were tasting in Montauban while, the soldiers were fighting each other. Actually, the lords were drinking wine
Of course.
to see, actually, is it the Montauban wine or is it the Fronton wine, which
Wow. That's good. That's a cool story.
yeah. So this is about the where we are, the how we are, and I'm trying to see if I have. Well, I don't have a stone here. So actually, Boulban is a very rich soil.
Okay.
It's heavy, and it's a mixture of that. The things you build. You build houses with. I don't know
Oh,
how you
okay.
call it. In Africa they build their huts with it, and
Okay.
stones in there. So you have those large stones,
Oh,
and
cool.
that
Okay.
is and that is because, well, that is now 10,000 years ago. The rivers were kind of crossing here, so they were up here, and so this is the ancient bed of the river. So it's I'm not sure if this is Tarn and the other one is Garonne, but actually both have been crossing up here on the plateau.
Okay.
Well, whatever, 5,000, 10,000 years ago.
So then within, and is there a village named Fronton also?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And that is a small village, 8,000 inhabitants, 10,000 inhabitants. Um, so you would call that the nice outskirts of Toulouse. So many
Gotcha.
of the people living here are actually working and traveling to Toulouse every day.
Okay, nice. Toulouse. I went and saw Indochine in Toulouse back in the
Uh,
'80s.
wow.
Yeah, I lived in Po, and I was just in Gaillac for the festival and visited Albi and all that. So I
Yes,
kind of know the area, but I need to
yes,
go to Fronton now.
yeah,
So
great.
then, how does Chateau Clamens figure into like what is unique about you within Fronton? Because your wine is extraordinary. We're going to get there, but
Yes.
what do you do differently, or what defines Chateau Clamens?
Yeah, so I think one of the things is I would describe us as being innovative. So just kind of to go back to the rosé
Mm-hmm.
to show that one. So if you look once more at the bottle, this really is bright. This really is clear,
Yeah.
and that is on purpose. So when I came here and when we started, I heavily invested into the chain because I thought negrette is really a good grape for that rosé. I tasted a little bit of different taste there. I had discussions with enologues around that, with sommeliers around that, and we said, well, actually, we want to have that very pale rosé, which is very rich, very aromatic, the type of a restaurant, gastronomic wine,
Yeah.
gastronomic
Mm-hmm.
rosé, like the very noble Provence wines. And that was completely off of the tracks of what was done at Fronton. Because in Fronton, the rosé was like more a clairé. They were
Yes.
using the rosé actually to darken, to deepen, to concentrate the rouge, the red
Huh.
ones.
Okay.
And I was saying, I think that rosé, Fronton rosé, is a product on its own. It has it really should live on its own. And I started to think on how we do that. And so just, one of the things how we do that, just kind of to show you once more now, if you look at the after the, well, just behind that oak, you see a range of other trees really at the front, really at the end. It's
Yeah.
about there that we have the cellar. So this
Oh,
is
okay.
a 5 minutes drive or so, even,
Okay.
with a tractor. With the car, it's 2 minutes or something like that. So, I was saying this here is the heart of the rosé. So we took this parcel. We said we want to use this for the rosé because in 5 minutes, 10 minutes time from harvest to the press,
Yeah.
and that makes the light color. So
Yeah.
this is because actually there's no contact point, no way for the juice to get colored because you have those grapes which are open. So we really thought that process through because we wanted to get there. Then we had other things. We had things about investment into cold. Temperatures were not kind of cold enough for the rosé to become the way it is right now.
Okay.
We had other innovations. We wanted to be even more intense. So we said we want to stock the I'm not sure how you call it. The solid parts. Once you have pressed the solid
Yeah.
parts,
Mm-hmm.
we want to keep that for 2 to 3 weeks, because in there is some very aromatic juice. You need to filter that. You need to filter the wurps, the rest of the yeast out.
Okay.
Okay. So and then kind of reintegrate that later on into the production process. So we needed to stock 3,000 liters of that wurp, of that hard swell, semi-solid state topics. Well, it's a little bit liquid, but still, all the solid parts are in there. So we said, well, how can we stock that without any contact to oxygenation? How can we do that for 2 weeks, 3 weeks time? 3,000 liters. And then we saw, it's really kind of, by chance, but we saw a milk, a run, container, a lorry just driving by to a dairy farm. And we say, well, that's it. They are having those type of things. So we bought used containers from a dairy farm where basically they stock the milk at 3 degrees. And we said, well, actually, if the milk stays as it is at 3 degrees for several days, we thought wine might as well. So, it's that type of innovation, I think, which differentiates us. So we were the first to have that kind of Fronton Rosé. Today, Rosé represents something like 35% of the overall appellation. And I would say, as of today, all try to be as light, as pale as possible. But, actually, you always have to be a little step in advance. So I haven't told you all the secrets yet.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, I can tell you're a good businessman, so I can appreciate that. I love it. So, but do you, the negrette that's going to be rosé, do you pick earlier than the negrette that's going to be red?
Yes, absolutely. So what we try to do here is we try to get to to a 12 and a half degrees alcohol. So we have lower sugar degrees in there. We want to be a little bit earlier also in terms of maturity, because actually we have a little bit more acidity also at that point in time. What you'll see in our rosés is acidity in general is very low. So actually the farther you get in maturity, the more the acidity level will go down. So this is also why we try to get the negrette early on in that phase. And that's what kind of, helps us to get there. So typically we will be with the rosés about a week to 2 weeks earlier than the red wines.
Okay. So Stefan, so many Provence rosés nowadays are rushing to get out to the market. So they arrive in the States in March, April, and they're just boom, 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 get it out, and they just don't seem finished. They're sharp sometimes. They're all peach notes, and in your wine is there's a plumpness. It's bright and refreshing, and I think any Provence drinker would love it, but there's a plump finishedness to it. What do you do to get there?
Oh, that's a secret.
Oh, okay. Next interview in a year.
No, actually, we really take our time with the rosé, and it really, how to say, we try to work the rosé on the yeast as you would do for a rich white wine.
Okay.
So I think that's what I can tell, and then all the details, of course.
That makes sense.
We don't want to get copied on that one.
No, I appreciate that.
And what we try as well, and I think that's also important, is it's really actually the grape itself is already very rich in aroma, and so we try to get the concentration on the rosé, where what I say is the Provence, if they want to be that pale, they tend to be a little bit watery, so they tend to be less concentrated in their perfume, and that is what really I wanted to do to differentiate us from them.
So then, can you tell me about was it Petit Clamens or Petit Clamens?
Yes.
And again, it has a very finished richness to it, but it doesn't, in the Roussillon, you get a lot of those. It's a hot climate place, and I assume you're a little bit warmer than Bordeaux, so there's a ripeness to it, but it's still very fresh.
Yes. So there also we look very much at the timing of the harvest. So we time the harvest, I would say, at half a day adjusted. So we have, when it comes to the right maturity, we have daily or every second day tastings of the grapes, the Œnologue and Jean-Michel, to really find the right point where you have already the right phenolic maturity, but you don't have the sugar yet, so that it gets, you know, kind of over the top, over that point, because I think it, you know, if we want to keep it a certain crispiness into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of what you described, I think, in that one. And you know, that comes more from the Merlot, which is in there. So we have you know, that's one of, you know, you were asking me for how do we differentiate. Jean-Michel's father planted Merlot just behind the cellar, 2 hectares or something like that. Although it's not in the appellation.
Okay.
So, you know, just kind of imagine you have somebody having 14 hectares at that point in time, and he is planting 15 to 20% of that with a grape, which he cannot use for what is seen as the high standard, so the AOC. So why does he do it? And he did it because he said, well, I think this is the soil for Merlot. Actually, you know, I should put Merlot on it because it will just kind of, it will be the right wine. It will be a good wine that will come out of that. So I don't care if it is in a, you know, registration or whatever form for our AOC wines in here. It will just kind of produce a good wine. Okay. So you know, that makes us an IGP. So, you know, it's just the level of IGP, the Petit Clamens wine, because we have Merlot in it, which is not allowed, formally allowed into a Fronton AOC, but all the production process, the way we work it in the vineyard, etc., is just like the AOC wines.
Brilliant. It means I can afford 2 bottles instead of 1, and it's still very, very good wine. Exactly. So then I have the Chateau Clamens right next to me. That
yes,
and this is now with Syrah. So tell me about this wine.
Yes. So this wine, to me, and also I would like to show you something.
Please.
I tried to see if I think you can see that. Well, I'm trying to. So you see the darkness of that glass against the. I'm not sure. Do you see it?
I can't see the glass right now. No.
Now?
No. It's because you're a little square. It's
yes. No. I'm trying to see it. Well, now we do it like that. It might be.
There we go.
That might be very much. Yeah. So now you see it's very dark, and it's type of a purple dark. It's not a red dark. But it should be purple. Yeah, you see that at the, you know, where the glass ends.
At the edge, yeah.
You should see that.
Oh, very well done.
So it's a purple. And the purple color is coming once more from the negrette. Now we are in that maturity to over maturity type of negrette, you know, rather than before. And so here, the negrette is bringing us. You know, the perfume and the aroma of red and black fruits in there, and it is bringing us, well, the fruitiness once more, but we wanted to marry that with the spices that Syrah brings. So, you know, I very much believe in the concept of assemblage, in the concept of cuvées, in the concept of, you know, bringing wines together to form something superior. So this is why we have that negrette Syrah, which I personally see as a very, very good marriage of 2 different grape varieties. One being very fruity, very round, very aromatic, and the other one being spicy, bringing structure and bringing also lengthiness into you know, the tasting experience.
And what do you, let me think, in Fronton, so we talked about food at the very beginning. It's kind of the general Gascony food, the duck and the walnuts and the asparagus and the truffles. What, can you tell us for the 3 wines, if we had a meal in Fronton, what you would put with each of those 3 wines?
Yes, and that might be a surprise.
Okay.
So let's start with the rosé. So, you know, of course, rosé, everybody wants to have rosé with roasted kind of, you know, meat. So you have that with barbecue, but now comes the fun part. Asian food really is, from my point of view, the best coupling with that rosé. Because actually the spice and the edge that comes with that food brings out the fruitiness, the lightness, the crispiness of the rosé even more. So that to me, is really kind of, you know, if I need to recommend what I do that with, and I had a, you know, from my time as a as a partner of that large strategy consultancy, I had 200 CEOs of large companies, you know, like FTSE companies,
Wow.
being with me for a dinner, and I wanted to serve my wine. So
Yeah.
what would I do? I would serve, of course, the rosé, and I was speaking with the restaurant. So that was in Schloss Elmau, you know, the one where the G7 was, where Obama was sitting there on the bench with Mrs. Merkel, etc. So I was there at the restaurant saying, what do you do? What do you serve as Asian food? And they were doing, you know, that shrimp type of soup, you
Okay.
know, with quite a sharp soup. And that was really the perfect match. I got very much complimented on the wine that night, much more than you know, on anything else I did in my life. So I think that was a good idea. Now on the Chateau Rouge, on the red one, typically it would be you know, here it would be the duck, the grilled duck, the grilled you know, those type of things. It might be a steak, you know, it might be beef. And then we have also on the Petit Clamens, to me, also all kind of roasted meat is good. But I would also use it with and drink it with cheese, because actually with cheese it almost gets sweet.
Okay. I have to tell you too that I'm just trying to eat more vegetables and a little bit less meat, as a lot of people are these days. And I think these wines are all vegetarian friendly because the tannins are a little bit softer, so you don't have to be afraid of it overpowering if you're just having a simple bean stew or a salad
Yes.
or a roast squash or something like that. I think they're fairly versatile wines.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. I am not a vegetarian myself, so but
Well,
you
you're
are
in a
absolutely.
place that it's really, really kind of why bother.
There is one more thing I would really like to show you, because I think this is also on the innovation side something we really can
Please, please.
be proud upon, and that is, if you see now that little brown, and I'm trying to show it here, the little brown, yeah, plastic
Uh-huh.
thing,
Yeah.
that is a marvel. So this thing, we call that sexual confusion. This is
Okay.
to keep away the butterflies. And if you keep away the
Oh,
butterflies,
butterflies. Okay.
you don't need to treat the plants anymore. So
Okay.
we have that HVE, you know, haute valeur environnementale. We have that certification because we really care for environment. But this is an invention 3 years old or 4 years old only,
Okay.
where we were kind of a tasting grounds for that. So
Oh.
we have that, you know, at every entry point into the row, we have that. And that
Okay.
reduces by 95% the number of butterflies counted in the vineyard. So we had, you know, that was experimental at the beginning. I was really willing to take part in there because I really believe in that. So basically, the male butterfly and the female butterfly send out different hormones that, you know, smells different. So we don't smell that, but that's kind of what's in that capsules. So basically,
Okay.
the one kind of wanting to deposit the eggs here just smells that everything is already taken. So they don't enter into that parcel. So you need to kind of close that well from all the sides. So we invest some manual work at that at the beginning of each of the campaigns, but then we are kind of really sure for quite some time. So that's also, you know, kind of, I think, an interesting part which you can see once you're here in the vineyard, and things you only see with you know, that's the small things that change a lot.
Yeah. No, but it's every little thing. They just add up and add up and add up, and it's tremendous. So we're at the half hour, Stefan. I know you're a busy man, and I will let you go. Did we catch almost sunset? Is that going on? When is the sun going to set?
Well, unfortunately not. Actually, when I was writing to you know, we might see sunset. I was looking it up. It's in 1 hour. I don't want to keep you for another hour. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture a little bit later on, and I'm going to post that on my story, and you can kind of read like it on your story.
Perfect. And I will share it too. That's awesome because I want to see it.
Perfect.
Okay.
Great.
Anything else you want to say that I didn't ask? It goes fast, but it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Did I miss anything that you want to say?
You missed quite a lot, because actually, you know, unfortunately, we are digital. We can speak, but you cannot smell, you cannot taste. Actually, that's kind of the most of the pity in here. We should have been doing a kind of, you know, a good degustation, a good wine tasting together.
Yeah, well, we'll do that soon, I hope. Between Tokar, Preston Lane, one way or the other. I'm definitely coming over there soon, and I assume you'll be over here too.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Steph.
Thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. It's really great to learn and to meet you.
Thank you very much, Steph, and have a good day, everybody, and have a good weekend.
Thank you. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.